Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Loyalty Expert's Voice. I'm your host, Mark Bergdahl, and today we have with us Mark Bergdahl, Managing Director at Loyalty Consulting UK and a well-established leader in the loyalty space with a long list of happy customers around the world. Welcome, Mark. It's a pleasure to have you today.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you.
And I believe it would be great if you could perhaps, introduce what Loyalty Consulting UK does, in just a few sentences for our audience.
Sure. Well, Loyalty Consulting UK was set up back in 2003, and we provide a range of advisory services, anything really from blue sky thinking all the way through to post-operational reviews, helping people to fix things that haven't actually delivered necessarily what they were looking for.
May I ask you what you believe is the most, let's say, difficult or challenging part of your job?
Again, this is an easy one for me. Because as a consulting boutique practice, we only focus on really loyalty initiatives. There's a common theme that runs through most of our engagements where we have the biggest challenge, which is the alignment of the interests of the various camps within an organization responsible for delivery and operations. So everything from marketing, which is an obvious one, who usually take the lead, through to the commercial department who set pricing and do the deals, through to the finance community that want to have a view of, well, what's this going to do for me? And of course, not least of which, the IT department to help deliver some of it. So the alignment of those interests is probably the most challenging thing that we end up tackling. And that's across two dimensions. One, timing, because IT in any organization never has time to do much. We're always last on the list when it comes to marketing initiatives. This is usually the case. But secondly, not just timing, but also business priorities. So the alignment of all of those interests, competing interests sometimes, is perhaps the most challenging thing when you're looking to deliver any kind of meaningful loyalty initiative.
Yeah, absolutely. And which industries, in your opinion, are still actually lagging behind when it comes to developing, effective, customer loyalty strategies?
That's a really interesting question, because if you'd asked me that question a few years back, I would have had a very quick answer for you, because it's easy to see those that have done the most. However, recent global events such as COVID has really impacted the thinking around loyalty initiatives, and they've actually piqued the interest of quite a lot of companies looking to retain customers, looking to keep customers coming back during a time when consumer behavior has just changed radically. And you only have to look at the airline industry as a specific example, where at the end of the day, they've got huge problems because of the lack of travel. But not only is that the issue, but from a loyalty perspective, retaining the investment that consumers have made or business people have made in loyalty programs is a huge challenge for the airline industry to maintain the relevance of those programs. I think the world of loyalty generally has been challenged by global events, and I think all industries have got to take a look at what they're doing in this space. And I don't think there is any one particular what we call laggard. I think everybody needs to think about what's most appropriate post pandemic, if we can say that, which I hope we can, with fingers crossed. So yeah, no easy answer to your question, I'm afraid, Marco. Maybe for you as a vendor, it's great news, because it's still very, very relevant subject that people need to take seriously.
Yeah, and indeed, we actually see a lot of interest from companies in industries that just a few years ago they wouldn't even think about a loyalty strategy. So um, that kind of confirms what you're saying. Um, Next question is so is there one aspect that gets often disregarded or overlooked by companies that are launching a loyalty program for the first time? Okay, and as actually you mentioned, perhaps a lot of companies are actually looking at loyalty for the first time right now, and there is something that instead is really crucial to get right, and they're kind of overlooking and not paying attention to it.
Data, 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 data. This is the answer to your question. So many loyalty initiatives start with a great marketing idea of how to reward customers to keep them shopping, or to keep them, or to get them to shop a little bit more, etc. But what they're really missing is the whole raison d'etre of a loyalty program, which ought to be about learning about customers. This is why we're doing it. We're trying to collect some data to help us make better decisions. There's a book that was published many years ago now called Scoring Points, and it was the story of Tesco Clubcard. And at the time when they published it, people said, why on earth are they publishing their strategy around loyalty? And Tesco's response was, well, we've been doing it for 20 years. It'll take you quite a while to catch us up. But the point really that I'm trying to make is that the whole point of what Tesco were doing, and there's a phrase in the book that says it quite nicely, which is that before they got started, it was like flying a 747, although that's now outdated because they're gone, but like putting a baby in front of a 747 and saying, fly this plane, because they were flying blind. They didn't know their customers. And so what Clubcard helped them do very quickly was to gain an insight into what customers liked, what they didn't like, what they bought, what they didn't bought, etc., so that they could make a range of decisions around how they ran the business to deliver meaningful results, which really grew the business. So having a plan for what you're going to do with the data, how you're going to learn about customers, which is a journey, it's not a destination, it's going to be something that you're going to do forever, and knowing what to do with it is really, really important. And so many operators of loyalty programs forget that when they set it up. And there's another dimension to this, which we mustn't forget, which I don't think anybody does these days because it's sort of hanging like a black cloud behind us, which is GDPR. Being honest with the customer about what you're going to do with the data and thinking about how you might communicate that to them is really important, really important. And I think that GDPR could be seen as our enemy, but actually I think it's our friend, because it teaches us to be responsible about what we're going to do with consumers' data. And we need to be honest about that and not try and trick the customer or second guess them, but be honest with them. And I think if we're honest with them, they'll willingly lend their trust to us as long as we maintain, the level of privacy that they expect. And that we don't try and dupe them into doing things that they perhaps wouldn't want to do. So data.
And speaking about, because you were mentioning loyalty technology, since I know actually technology assessment or vendor selection is also part, of your expertise, what are the mistakes companies tend to do here, and what should they really look at when they're evaluating a loyalty vendor, in your opinion?
But the two things that I very quickly focus on are the experience and commercial success of the provider of the platform or technology. This to me is interesting because the second point is that I look for the experience of the vendor post implementation, because so many vendors out there have got some really good technology, but they have no idea how to apply it in a live environment. And I could give you, I will remove the names to protect the innocent, but as an example, we worked on a particular scheme with a bank, and we were in a marketplace where all of the banks at the time, all the systemic banks, were looking to do something in the field of loyalty, and two of them picked the same vendor, and one of those was our customer. And we all went to market, all the banks went to market with an initiative. And these two particular banks who had the same technology had two completely different experiences. One was a very good commercial success, and of course that's the one I worked on. The other one was a mitigating failure. So the technology is not necessarily the defining factor that delivers success. It's what you do with it, very much so. What you do with it that's important. So experience and commercial success are two things that I look for, and the post-operational support. If you like, the roadmap. Where are you taking your technology next? What's in the pipeline? What's your vision? And we're looking for innovation. We're looking for, building on the experience of what went before. So these things are really, really important to me. I mean, people say, well, price and capabilities in this particular area, technically, et cetera, et cetera. Some of these things can be got around. But I don't think that the lack of experience and the lack of commercial success and the lack of understanding of how to run a loyalty program, for me, those things are, they're vital, absolutely vital.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And okay, we still have a couple of questions left. So let's talk about trends in loyalty. So let's kind of think about what's coming. So which ones are the most important right now in your opinion? So when it comes to trends in loyalty.
Well, I had a little think about this, and I think there are a number of things that I could say to address this question. But I think the three most important are not necessarily that new, but they're ongoing. I think the first one I would say is that when you're looking at loyalty, particularly consumer loyalty, the organization needs to stay true to its brand values. Emotional loyalty is always going to outstrip a consumer's love affair with the loyalty program itself. And so loving the brand is first and foremost something that the loyalty initiative needs to underpin, not the other way around. So a great loyalty scheme will never address failings in brand values. And I know what your next question is, so I'll come back and address that in the reverse way and tell you where I think there are examples of what that doesn't work. But if you think about it in ways that it does work, you don't see too many people running around. The lovers of Apple don't seem to care about loyalty schemes, even if Apple was to launch anything meaningful. BMW, American Express. I mean, yes, some of these companies have loyalty initiatives, but they don't stand at the forefront of what they stand for. Their brand is forefront, and the emotional engagement with that brand is the most important thing. So the loyalty needs to underpin that, and I think this is an ongoing need for people like me to advise our clients on how to achieve that. The second would be bridging what I call bridging the digital divide between the bricks and the clicks, making sure that as a loyalty initiative, it doesn't matter where I am, where I engage, where I purchase, where I call, what I do, you're aware of it. You look at me as one customer across multiple channels and treat me as such. And that sounds easy to say, but difficult to deliver. And of course, you need good technology to do that. But it is really important for the consumer experience to be able to achieve that. And the third one, which underpins what I've just said about omnichannel, is there's still a need for instant rewards. It's really important that when you're rewarding a customer for doing something, that they achieve that reward, or they're aware of that reward as close to the time at which I'm performed the action that you wanted me to perform as possible. So when I make a purchase, I want to see my points or whatever it is you're going to reward me with, alongside a strategy to surprise and delight me, because I get bored. So you better do something to surprise and delight me as well. So these are the three. I think they're not new specifically, but they are constant challenges as everything else changes that need to really be paid attention to.
I mean, and so speaking about loyalty programs and yeah, what they should do to basically be successful. So do you already mentioned that you have you are a frequent flyer, you are a member of several programs, and so it's the final question is more like a personal one. What is your favorite loyalty program then?
The coming together of the American Express co-brand strategy for credit cards and the British Airways Executive Frequent Flyer program was a perfect partnership and delivered a meaningful experience for frequent travelers. If you're not a frequent traveler, it doesn't appeal to you. But as a frequent traveler and a business traveler, spending a not inconsiderable amount of money on expenses because I fly a lot, that program was perfect for me.
Okay, and thank you very much, Mark. It was really fun, engaging, and insightful talking to you. It was a pleasure talking to you today. Um, so thanks again.
Well, I've enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Bye.